We're from Mid-Valley Fellowship, and we are here for the Experience Mid-Valley Fellowship live stream. It's no longer a test. This is actually the real thing. We are going to just wait a little bit and kind of see if other people kind of come on, and we'll kind of reintroduce ourselves. So for those of you who are, on par and are ready to go, good job on being on time. We're going to wait just a couple minutes to kind of let some people kind of trickle in a little bit. It is a beautiful day here in Albany, Oregon. I don't know how warm it got today, probably like in the mid-70s or something.
Yep.
We have some kind of minorly threatening clouds, but it's still no rain, and it's been just really pleasant today. So we could not have chosen a better day to do a live stream, especially starting outside.
Yeah, gorgeous. We have a breeze. It's just wonderful. It's not too warm. It's not cold. Yeah, beautiful day.
Yeah. Yes, in Oregon in May, it's not always common to have kind of nice sunny days. Sometimes it's kind of rainy or whatever. I mean, it's kind of, there's the joke, the Northwest joke, which is if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
Yes.
But today the change, it did start out kind of cloudy, but then it's been kind of warm and nice. There's some clouds kind of still here coming back, I guess. We might even be on par for a nice sunset this evening. Which
I think it'll be absolutely gorgeous. And we'll be probably just finishing up before the sunset starts.
Yeah.
We think. And it's also a nice weekend, too. It's Mother's Day weekend. A lot of us are planning on honoring our mothers. Those of us that have lost our mothers, we're going to be thinking about them. And I have a very good friend of mine that is taking me and another friend out for dinner on Sundays.
That's cool.
It's going to be really sweet to do that. Thank you, friend. You know who you are if you're there. So I get to celebrate this year with some good friends, and I'm really looking forward to that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you just dropped in, I'm Duan, and this is Terry. We're from Mid-Valley Fellowship. I'm the director, and Terry is involved in a lot of kind of partnership and outreach things. And we're excited about doing this live stream. I guess I'll give a little disclaimer that it is a live stream, which means that sort of whatever happens is what happens. So it may, go really interesting or whatever, but we'll just keep going and kind of work through it. So anyway, but how are we doing on how many people are kind of joining us?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So we're ready to go then, I suppose. Okay. No or yes? Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
We're kind of waiting for people to join us. That's why you hear some back and forth going.
Yes, indeed. So Mid-Valley Fellowship, if you're not familiar with us, we are a Christian organization helping individuals obtain sexual and relational wholeness. And so there are a lot of voices in our world that speak messages about sexuality and relationships that are in conflict with God's creative intent for humanity. And even in the church community, we're uncertain how to react. And so for people who are struggling with pornography addiction, sexual addiction, people who are survivors of sexual abuse or struggling with unwanted same-sex desires, a sense of hopelessness and confusion can easily set in. And so Mid-Valley Fellowship exists to walk alongside those struggling and educate the church while reflecting God's grace, truth, and incredible power to transform lives. And so that's a beautiful opportunity that we get to walk alongside people who are struggling. And so we're excited to welcome you for this event this evening. Experience Mid-Valley Fellowship began probably about 6 years ago. I'm not exactly sure on the number, maybe 7, where we just really wanted to give a picture of what our support programs looked like and how could we encapsulate that for people who don't come to programs. And it's a confidential space, so certainly it feels problematic to try and take any video or pictures or other things like that to try and encapsulate that. And so we began doing these kind of short Facebook videos just to give people a taste of what would happen during our Tuesday night support programs before everybody got there, and just kind of give an overview. And then it became a more consistent thing. It was kind of sporadic. And then we at some point started naming it Experience Mid-Valley Fellowship. Because these things need a name after a while. And then about 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to do an actual event where we could invite people to come on site where we normally do our groups and to have them walk through and experience different pieces of our support programs. And so we did that the last couple of years. This year, for a number of reasons, we decided to move to live stream and to offer this. And that actually, there's a lot of beauty in that because it means that people can join us from all over the country. And we do have people who support the ministry and who pray for us and are engaged all across the country and in some cases around the world. And so this is a great opportunity for people to be able to get a taste of that. And so as I said, our Experience Mid-Valley Fellowship event has been really focused on our Tuesday night support programs. But we also have been doing a Thursday night support program in the last couple of years. We actually did it many years ago too, but more recently we've been doing it. And that one we do here at the Mid-Valley Fellowship House. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the other things that we do here, counseling and our internship and our residential program. Just kind of give an overview of all those things so that you get a taste of experiencing Mid-Valley Fellowship. And so that's kind of where we're going a little bit tonight. But you know what? I just realized what you just realized too.
Yeah.
we're gonna do a giveaway, and we forgot to bring it with us. But that's okay. It'll either maybe appear from one of our hosts, or we'll just grab it as we walk past the reception desk. But we're gonna do a giveaway here in just a couple of moments. It's gonna be a book. What's the book that we're giving away?
The book is called How to Talk to Your Children About Sex. And it's a great resource. Every parent worries about, is concerned about what to teach their children about sex, knowing that they want to be the ones to do it. They don't want the internet to teach their kids. They don't want teachers to teach their kids. But how do you go about doing that? So this is a great resource that we have that teaches parents how to talk to their kids about sex, age-appropriate things. And also, it's a great resource for anybody who's has friends that have, maybe you don't have any children, but you can take this book, you can read it for yourself, and you could even maybe give it away as a gift. But I think it's a great resource for everybody to read, to know how to talk to kids about sex, especially if you're around them and they ask you questions.
Yeah, for sure. And certainly like in the things that we're working with people through, the sort of prevention in the future is for people to have a healthy relationship with sex and with their body and all those pieces. And so this book is a really good piece that helps with that.
Yeah.
That's by Rodney and Tracy Wright. We'll show it to you in a minute. But we are going to do that giveaway here very soon. So how do people get entered in the giveaway?
So we want you to put your name in the chat bar. So just put your name in there. Everybody, you have to subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, you have to make sure you do that. And you're just going to type your name in, and then when we get upstairs, we'll have one of our hosts pick your name, and you'll win the book. Yeah.
And so, as Terry mentioned, there is a subscribe button right below this video. So you can subscribe to our channel. You'll have to do that in order to be able to chat.
Yeah.
And so if you do that, and then you can enter your name in the chat. So go ahead and do that here any moment. We'll choose them here in just a few minutes. So you got a moment to do that, but go ahead and do that.
Yep.
And then also, if you're kind of going, hey, you know what? I know somebody who would be great for them to watch this live stream too. There's a share button also under the video. Encourage you to click that and share that with somebody. Say, hey, come watch this. They should be able to go back to the beginning of the stream even and watch it, but then also you'll be able to watch it later as well. But anyway, so you can share that with people, let them know that's happening. So subscribe if you haven't already, and then put your name in the chat, and we'll do that giveaway here in just a couple of moments when we transition here in a second. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Mid-Valley Fellowship House also, right? Yeah. So this house was built in 1893. It was called the Riley House because it was the Rileys who built it. The Rileys were horse breeders. So if you look up at the window behind me, you see that kind of horseshoe shape in the window. Sometimes it's called a starburst window, but really the shape is the horseshoe shape to represent the fact that they were horse breeders. And so they were the original builders of the house back in 1893. And so this house has stood for a very long time. I won't embarrass myself by trying to do math on the spot, but it's been around for a long time. And we have been privileged to own the MVF house since 2017. And so it's been a huge blessing to us. We purchased it in the fall of 2017, and then it did some renovations and things like that. Yeah. And then the offices moved in 2018. And so it is the home of our administrative offices. It's where we do counseling. And then also it's where we do our Thursday group program, as I mentioned. So there's a lot of kind of people coming in and out and kind of engaging with different things throughout every day here at Mid-Valley, Monday through Friday, right? Yeah. And so huge gift to us and a huge blessing to us.
Okay.
What else? Was there anything else we were supposed to talk about?
No, we just want you to put your name. I'm going to say this one more time. If you want to enter a giveaway, we want you to put your name in the chat bar. And we're going to let you see that resource when we get upstairs. And I think we're ready to
head on in. So we're going to head on inside and look at a few more things. So now that we've asked you to put your name in the chat, we do have hosts who are standing by to engage with you and answer your questions and all those kinds of things. And so they're going to pick somebody's name right now and to win that book And so then they're going to put in the chat who won that book. So that book is called How to Talk to Your Kids About Sex. We just talked about that a moment ago.
Yeah.
Really great book, great resource. You want this. So one of the hosts is going to grab somebody's name, and then they're going to put it in the chat to let you know who won that. And then we'll be in touch with you to get it to you. So we're going to come on in this way, right?
Okay, this is one of our counseling offices, and counseling is a big part of our ministry, a big part of what we do here. As clients come in, we meet them up with counselors that will talk to them, go over some of their things that they're experiencing, some of their struggles, begin that process of digging in. And it's wonderful, confidential. It's a safe place to share what you're going through. Our counselors are all very well trained. They've been in our ministry for years. We have counselors for men and counselors for women. And it's even part of our programs. All of our program participants can engage in counseling. They get a free one every month. And if they need more, like I did when I was a participant, there were times where I would come in weekly. I think the counseling rates are very affordable too. But it's really, really valuable for us to offer counseling.
Yeah, and certainly if somebody can't afford counseling, we also give scholarships. So we give away a lot of scholarships every month, just because we really want people to be invested in their process. That's why we have fees. But we also don't want it to be a way to prevent people from receiving support. So we'll work with people to make it work for them. So counseling is a big piece of what we end up doing kind of day in and day out here. And walking alongside people, working through all the different issues in their life. And we have 5 counselors on staff.
Yeah,
right?
We do. We have 5 counselors on staff, 3 from men, 2 for women. And the beautiful thing about counseling too is you don't necessarily have to be in programs to receive counseling for us. There are many people that receive counseling. There are even people that go through program books during counseling time and don't go through the group programs. So there's a lot of flexibility with our counseling, and we really strive to meet the need of the person that we're serving and that we're caring for. Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. And so this graphic that we created a few years ago really illustrates some of our philosophy when it comes to counseling and also to groups. And the top part up here is these are kind of just different examples of fruit, and that so many times in our lives we experience fruit that we don't like or that we don't want to have. Bad fruit in some different form, right? And so some examples in our case is like porn addiction or codependency, it could be false identity or same-sex attraction, sexual addiction, narcissism or love addiction. That these are all fruits that the reason why people come here is so they say, hey, this is bad fruit in my life and I don't really want that in my life. I want to be free of those things. I don't want them to be something that's happening all the time. And so it can be very tempting to kind of go, I just want these fruit to go away. I don't like them. They're bad and whatever. I just want them to go away, right? And that we can sometimes even focus on that mistakenly, and we just sort of kind of say, well, let's change behavior. Like, how can we change behavior? When really what's going to be beneficial for the long term is to go down to the roots that are underneath those behaviors. Because if we understand the roots that are contributing to those behaviors, then the behaviors begin to diminish and go away. And so some of the roots that we put down here are things like unforgiveness. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, or disconnected relationship with mom or dad, or that person that's supposed to invest a sense of gender and a sense of what it means to be a man or be a woman, that whenever we have a disconnection in that relationship, it's pretty profound. And so that can affect the way that we see ourselves, the way we relate with people. Or isolation, we're designed for a relationship, and so isolation is something that really eats at us in different ways. Or maybe we experience sexual abuse. It's a violation of a person to experience abuse of any kind, and sexual abuse is certainly that way. Neglect is another form of abuse as well. Rejection, we may have rejection in significant relationships, and so that can be a problem. Or self-hatred or shame. It's not on here, but worthlessness could sort of be wrapped in here in some form too. And so there's a lot of different roots that really feed into the addictions or the brokenness in someone's life. And so our desire is to say, okay, let's go down to the root and look at what the roots are and engage with those and address those, and to get God's perspective on them, to have his understanding of how we're supposed to live life and how we're supposed to engage with these different situations. And when we do that, then we can experience healing in those root places, and through community and engagement with God. that we can experience healing in our lives, which then begins to change the fruit that comes out of that. And so that then we have healthier fruit, right? Which is really what we want. We sometimes want to we go like, well, I just need to do this thing to fix the behavior. It's like, no, actually we need to get down here and deal with these things, and then the behavior will follow. And so that's also why this process tends to be a long process. On average, it's said that for sexual addiction, that is a 2 to 5 year process for someone who is highly motivated. And so in this, we are walking alongside people for a long period of time to help them experience transformation and healing in their lives. And so that's a little bit about kind of counseling and our philosophy. And this is true in groups too, that's really what we're trying to do, is to go, what are the deeper roots in someone's life that is contributing to that? And I think we're going to head into the other room and talk a little bit more about another foundational piece that is really important to us as a ministry. So we're going to head out that direction. And this is our dining room here at Mid-Valley Fellowship. We're going to talk about this. So prayer is really something that's foundational and fundamental to us. In the context of our support groups, we have a group of people who come on support group nights and they pray during the whole entirety of support groups. They're just intentionally praying for the participants, for the leaders, and really praying that God will move in different profound and significant ways. So we have those on-site prayer intercessors. We also have a team of off-site prayer intercessors that throughout the week, they are praying for a specific small group, and that they are really praying for them by name and for their specific needs that the leaders have communicated to them. So that throughout the week, participants are being covered in prayer. And then we also from time to time have prayer gatherings or prayer around certain events or different things like that. There's been a team of people who've actually been praying for this event over the last couple of months, which has been a huge blessing to us. And so we put together this kind of summary of stats related to prayer because we do have on-site prayer intercessors and off-site prayer intercessors. And then we also, so in a typical year, we'd have about 135 hours of on-site prayer during the course of the program year. And so that's people who come on-site to programs and are just praying throughout the night. And then about 19 people who are doing off-site prayer, so they get assigned to specific small groups, and they're praying for the same group throughout the program year. And so that just gives kind of an encapsulation a bit of how much prayer goes into our support programs, which is a huge blessing to us. And you've been part of the prayer team for quite a few years.
Many years. It's foundational, in my opinion, to support our leaders. We ask for wisdom for them. They ask good questions. We pray for their health as well. We pray for energy and for their ability to be well and consistent and to meet our groups every week. And then we're praying for all of the participants. And I'm an on-site prayer warrior. And so I spend an hour and a half on group nights praying for every participant by name and all the struggles they're going through or the individual prayer request, how we're asking God to move in their lives. And here we have a board of actual prayers to give you an idea of the way we pray for our participants. So one of the big things we're asking God is that they encounter God. And I'm going to read this prayer for a woman. God, bring your daughter to a place of encountering you personally and intimately, that she would sense your invitation to her personally and how you want to work restoration and redemption in her heart. Father, another one for a man. Father, draw your son to experience you as a fire that pervades even the deepest and darkest parts of his life. And that would be a prayer for somebody who's really maybe stuck under shame and really feeling worthless and can't even approach God. Oftentimes participants are in such a dark place that they don't even feel they're worthy of praying to God or even getting healing from him. So that's one of the biggest prayers that we like to pray for people. Also, we're praying against lies. Often we grow up believing lies have been spoken over us, or lies that we've heard maybe from other members of the church, especially those of us that are struggling with pornography or other issues. So this prayer is, Father, in your gentle way, break off the lie that he is unworthy of being a friend, and that ultimately he is a bad friend. This person didn't feel worthy of friendship and didn't think he was a good friend. So in this case, we're trying to break that lie and have God's Holy Spirit speak into his heart. Here's another one. Replace the lies with the truth of who they are in Christ. They're precious children of God. God, break off the lie that investing in relationships has no value. This is a big type of prayer for people that want to be safe and isolate, that don't feel like they have anything to give. Joy is another thing we ask for, because you have to balance all the grief and shame with joy. So God, give your son perspective to see beyond what is in front of him. Help him to see how you can give him joy, even in the darkness that is familiar and comfortable to him. For a woman, God, draw your daughter into delighting in you as you delight in her. Help her recognize delight and joy as being part of who she was created to be. Relationships. Many of us come into groups and into MBF with broken relationships with parents or in their marriages. And so we're always praying for restoration, for opportunities for connection and relationship. I'm just going to read one. Father, bring unity to this family as they navigate his journey into emotional, relational, and sexual wholeness. And then lastly, burdens. Many of us are carrying burdens, many of our participants too. Jesus, give her peace to be able to release any responsibilities and burdens that aren't hers to carry. Thank you that your burden is life. And that's often a problem for people that are codependent. They want to carry other people's burdens and they don't really belong to them. And then I'll do one more. Father, give her discernment on how to navigate boundaries. We also teach good boundaries in programs and in counseling, and how to carry other people's burdens in a healthier way. So these are pretty main ideas of things that we're praying for people. I pray for all kinds of things. Many people have dreams that are causing them grief. I love to pray over no more sexual dreams and don't let the enemy attack them in that way. And I just love being a part of the prayer team and feel very, very privileged to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like contending on the front lines, right? I mean, it's a spiritual battle, and so that we need people who are contending on the front lines for us, even as we're walking alongside people. That's really significant. And you can be part of the prayer team too. There's going to be a link in the chat to let you sign up to be on the prayer team if you'd like to, or just to learn more about that. That's a big place of involvement for volunteers, and a place that can be really valuable and significant. And, there's other things that happen. So this is our dining room table. There's other things that happen that are kind of cool around this table as well. So as I mentioned, we have our Thursday groups here. And so before our Tuesday groups and Thursday groups, we have a time for our leaders over dinner to really talk about hey, what's going on inside of you and how are you doing? How are you navigating through whatever it is that life is throwing at you at the moment? And really wanting to check in, because we realize that we are all in process, that all of us still have places of growth and places of healing that we need to walk through. And so that's an opportunity to support each other and to say, hey, I want to walk alongside you in that, and to bring perspective and all of those things. So we have that time together with other leaders and just over dinner and talking about what's going on in us. And so we do that on Thursdays here around this table. And so that's before the participants come. And that also helps the leaders be able to be in a place of readiness to engage and to offer support to those who are coming to us. By the way, we've talked a little bit about support here, and I feel inclined at this moment to just drop in. If you are needing support or seeking support, there's going to be a link in the chat for that also, to say, hey, here's how you can engage with support at Mid-Valley Fellowship. And so if you can click through on that and engage with us, we would love to support you in any way that we can. And so that happens around this table as the leadership time. And we also offer support outside of group nights for leaders. They get an individual mentoring each month. Some also choose to do additional counseling just because of where they're at in their journey. And so we want to support our leaders and want to make sure that they stay healthy for the long haul, which you'll hear that phrase again a little bit later as well. So that happens around this table. But then also we have a residential program. So a residential growth program for people who are saying, hey, I really want to go deeper in my relationship with God, and I want to do that in community with others who are challenging and encouraging me as well. And so I want to do that in that context. And so we have 3 people who live here who really are saying, hey, I want to dig in, I want to press in with God and with other people. And so we also have weekly house meetings over dinner again, and really talk about hey, what's going on in each person, and how can we support you? Sometimes we're going through a book or talking about different concepts and things, but really trying to just support each other in journeys with God. you might have heard the theme of food a little bit, right? We tend to do a lot of things over food. I think I like to cite the fact that, when Jesus was here on earth, he often was drawing people together over food. So it's not really that much of a stretch, but it is something that's really a great place for us to connect and to engage with each other. It is a social lubricant, I guess you could say. And so we really enjoy the opportunity to do that and to really walk alongside each other and be connected in different ways. And so there's a number of things that happen around this dining room table. We also, when we'll talk about internship a little bit later, we usually have our intern dinner here as well each week, as the interns kind of have their instruction time, and then they also have dinner as part of that. And so this is an often used space to connect with other people and to enjoy food also. So that's a little bit of kind of what happens in this room, right? But I think we're going to head upstairs, and actually, as we're doing that, we're also going to do another giveaway. I forgot to mention earlier that we have 3 total giveaways. So if you didn't get the first giveaway, don't worry, there's going to be more. So right now, if you want to be entered in this giveaway, you just need to enter in the chat where you are watching from. So maybe city and state. Could also be I'm watching from my living room, or I'm watching from somewhere else. But just tell us where you're watching from, and you'll be entered in to win this one. So this is 2 things. First of all, Stories for Men. It's a bunch of stories of guys who have been struggling with sexual addiction and are working through that. And so kind of what their experience and their journey of healing look like. And so it's from a ministry partner of ours, Pure Desire. So there's a lot of great encouraging stories in there about guys who have been walking through their process. So that's one thing you get. The other is this little book called Emotional Dependency. We had a partnership with the author a few years ago to reprint it, refurbish it. It's kind of an older presentation. They're just talking about what does it look like to have healthy relationships. And so you'll get both of these books, the Stories for Men and the Emotional Dependency, if you put in the chat where you were watching from. And then we're going to have the hosts draw that in just a moment and tell us who won. But also, and I think we mentioned it, but we do have a few hosts who are here that are ready to answer your questions. So we're saying different things, they're talking about different things, and so you may have a question that we aren't speaking to, and so you can just put that in the chat, and the host will be happy to respond back to you and give you an answer or kind of direct you to a resource or something like that. So they are already there for you. So pose those questions. Ask really hard ones. It's really great. We won't see them, and we won't be able to answer them. So just challenge them a little bit, like ask them a hard question. It's really good. So, but they're going to go ahead. The hosts are going to go ahead now. One of them is going to pick who is going to win this giveaway. Okay. And we will have one more. So, stay tuned, because we have one more giveaway this evening, but they're going to pick that now, and then they'll put it in the chat who won that, and we'll be in touch with you. So this room we use also for counseling room, but also some administrative things. And then we use it in the course of our Thursday groups too. So our basic structure of our program nights, usually like our Tuesday night, we start the evening with worship, because we feel like that's an important foundation for focusing our attention on God. Thursday we don't really have it set up to do worship, but then the next piece of the evening is a lesson. It talks through different topics, which we're going to mention here in just a minute. And then the last piece of the evening is small group. So first we're going to talk about the lesson time, and then we'll get into small groups in a moment.
So we offer several different lessons depending on what your struggles are. We offer a clean heart for men, and we have these resources for the guys. It's a 2-year program in which they will learn tools. They will learn how to, they learn a lot of this stuff. They're going to learn how to get in touch with their feelings. A lot of people are shut down. They're going to learn healthy ways to cope with stress instead of acting out and turning to pornography. They're going to learn tools, and they're going to learn how to understand the roots. We were talking about roots, and we're talking about the fruit. What's causing them to even want to use pornography or sex addiction to cope with the struggles in life. They're going to learn all kinds of great things, like how to guard their heart. They're going to learn how to connect with people in healthy ways, how to connect with women in healthy ways. They'll learn a little bit about what their wives, if they're married, are going through. It's a really, really great resource, and it really helps our guys become healthy and have sexual integrity. I really love that program.
Yeah, and one of the big things too that's in there too is, and in this next one as well, is just the aspect of dealing with trauma.
Trauma.
And so navigating trauma. And
Yeah.
that too.
Not always, but often trauma can be one of the roots to why people act out sexually. We also have Clean Heart for Women, because women are starting to experience the access to pornography and starting to use that to fill their hearts too. Often it's a love addiction that's driving that, and that's from brokenness in their homes, not getting enough nurture, maybe going through some abuse, trauma. Just that's a lot of how people are are coping with life these days. So they're all turning to things that are making them feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
And as Christians, that's not how we want to live. We want to have healthy sexual lives the way God has fashioned us to be. So
yeah.
So we have that for women.
And then the love addiction, that term, if people aren't familiar with it, essentially it's that idea of kind of like always needing to be in a romantic relationship, or always needing to sort of have that connection with someone, is sort of like feeling like you can't function without that romantic connection.
Yeah.
So that's
to feel whole, right?
Yeah, to feel a need.
But it's the hole in our hearts, you know, that only God could fill. And so often we'll use other people for that. We also have Taking Back Ground for our same-sex attracted people. This is also a 2-year program. This is a really great program, helping people discover the root for the same-sex attraction. Often it's a brokenness with the same sex parent. Could be trauma in childhood, could even be some sexual abuse in childhood. This program is dear to my heart. I have spent a year in this program just as a leader, and my best friend also suffered this. So this is also a 2-year program, going to help the guys get out of the shame and start, diving into what is the cause. Teaching them what a real man looks like. There's a lot of shame around, what is a real man and that kind of thing. And so this book helps a lot with that, giving them tools and helping them take back the ground that they've lost.
Yeah, take back the ground the enemy has stolen.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And this program is for men and women.
Yes.
And so has a lot of good things for what healthy femininity looks like, and God's design for that, and so on.
Yeah, there's great lessons in that book. We also have Mending the Soul for people that are survivors of sexual abuse, and that could be childhood sexual abuse or teenage or even in adulthood. Really good resource. I went through this program. A lot of us don't even really understand what abuse is and how it's affected us. And so the book really talks about abuse, the different types, how to spot it, how to guard yourself against it, and how to get rid of the same. There's a lot of toxic shame, feeling like it's my fault. I did something wrong. And so this book helps people look at their feelings, come through those feelings, starting to feel some healing. There's a big section about forgiveness and how that frees us, and how to think about sexuality in healthy ways. Because I was really messed up about sexuality from my experience. And I can tell you now that I understand it's a wonderful, beautiful thing created by God in the context of marriage, and I am not angry anymore. So it is really a great resource for you.
Yeah, for sure. And this is, I like to say often, this is one of the graphic design wise, it is one of the most attractive curriculums that we have. It is also one of the hardest programs.
It's pretty hard. So
yeah,
pray hard. If you're going to join our prayer team, pray for our people that are in mending, because that one's tough.
Yeah.
Then we also have Hope Together, and this resource is for women that are dealing with, anybody that's dealing with same-sex attraction or sex addiction or sexual abuse survivors. This is a great resource for the women that they tend to go numb, and they've been traumatized usually by their partners acting out sexually. And so this resource helps them get back in touch with their feelings, helps them realize it's not their fault, because often they want to take blame for the behavior that's going on. Also helps them get reconnected to God, reconnected to love and joy in their hearts, and gives them hope for their marriages. Between this resource and our Clean Heart resource, I could tell you that God is healing marriages, keeping families together, and they end up being a lot closer than they ever were before.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And also so for all of these, like if somebody wants to get involved in a support group, you'll have a support link that we dropped in the chat, and you can reach out to us and get engaged in those. We didn't bring a resource necessarily, but we have a group, a loved ones group, which is for parents, family, friends of those who are LGBTQ+ identified. And so for you're trying to walk alongside someone and try to go, how do I love them well, even though their decisions are in conflict with what I believe, and how do I navigate all of that? So that group meets once a month, and it's just a great place for encouragement and support. And so you can also, there can also be a link to that in our chat as well. You can go to our website; it's also listed on the website. So. Anyway, so so those are kind of a little bit of the lesson part of our support groups.
Yeah, and the lesson part is we discuss. We discuss the weekly lesson, which is really great because they can like talk about how they reacted to it, talk about how they can use that tool to help them. And so the lesson part's really, really awesome. And our volunteer leaders teach the lessons or the discussion time every week. So
and the curriculum all has questions that people answer, so they're engaging with it throughout the week. And then come together on a group night and really work through kind of those pieces. And so that's the second portion of the evening is the lesson. So we have worship and then the lesson. And the last portion of the evening is small group. And so we're going to head on into another room up here and talk about small groups. And so this usually is the last part of the evening when we break down men and women separately. And the groups are usually 5 or 6 participants and 2 leaders, and really beginning to dig down and work through different things. And do that in community. And so we have this kind of set up a little bit like a small group room. And we have these masks that are sitting around. And the concept there is just that so many times whenever we come into a group setting, whether that is a support group or even going to church on Sunday, that we can have a mask on, because that's sort of how we have protected ourselves. And so we can walk around with these different things. And, like this one says, don't express emotions. So we sort of have that as our mask, the way that we interact with people, that we don't want to express emotions because and we'll talk about why in a moment, but we don't express emotions. We just sort of like, everything's fine. There's nothing to see. Like everything's fine, right? And that usually there's a lie that drives that mask. So this one, the lie of don't express emotion, or the mask of don't express emotions, is driven by the lie, vulnerability brings judgment. And so that someone may have experienced judgment from other people in their life, kind of as they were navigating through difficult things or whatever. And so they say, well, I can't be vulnerable. I'm just going to get judged. So I need to have this mask and need to hold it up. And so even as people come into small group, they usually bring those masks. And as we begin to work through things, and they finally let the mask down, and God begins to do a transforming work and a healing work in them. And so as with most of the things this evening, these are sort of real stories and real situations that we're drawing from, that we've experienced in the context of groups, or groups mostly. So we actually have a story related to that specific mask and a lie that I wanted to read for you. So the mask again was don't express emotions. The lie was that vulnerability brings judgment. So here's the story. So he says, as a child, I was sensitive and didn't really fit in with the other boys. I promised myself I would never objectify women and suppressed my attraction to them. At the same time, I gradually went from comparing myself physically to other boys to looking up sexual images online. I never told anyone about my struggle with same-sex attraction for fear of being judged. At MVF, I learned to be open and trusting of others. I believe that I am like other men, capable, good enough. I now see temptation as an opportunity for growth and recognize that God does not shame us, but loves us simply because of his nature. I've grown to understand how important it is to process my emotions. I'm open now with my feelings and experiences, whereas before I was a sealed vault. And so he learned how to let go of that mask and to engage in real relationship that was significant and transformative. You have a mask also.
Yes, I have a mask. My mask says, never show weakness. And the lie behind this mask is I have to be strong for others. This mask is from a woman, and here's her story. My husband has gone through a Clean Heart program on his own and had experienced big change. I was still dealing with bitterness and trust issues on my side of our relationship. I started Hope Together to explore the areas that were still hurting in me to find healing. Going through MVF, I realized that I had buried my grief about my marriage in order to be the strong one in our relationship, while my husband was working on his healing. The buried grief caused deep bitterness. I needed to dig out the grief and process the feelings around it. I also needed to give up control by relying on God instead of myself to carry the weight of everything. Lastly, I needed to deal with forgiveness and find out what that actually looked like.
Mhm.
So oftentimes women who have been betrayed, they're going to hide it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't have a safe place to share the feelings that they're having, feelings of being inadequate, feelings of betrayal, sadness, hurt, anger. They have nothing to do with it until somebody like you will share that there's a resource for them here at Mid-Valley Fellowship. And often, I'm often in that group. It takes a while for the women in a group to bring these masks down and realize what they've been doing, trying to keep the status quo and to hide what's happening in their lives. But here, they find a place where they can be honest and they can talk about their feelings, and they can open up and allow God to heal them in community with other people that understand how they're feeling.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so you talked about in that one that forgiveness was a significant piece of that. So I wanted to show you this other element here in this room, and this is a cross that we use in support programs. And actually, we just did our lesson on forgiveness not too long ago. Because if you remember from the tree that we looked at earlier, one of the roots is unforgiveness. That it's not, that it is a big piece of a contributing root to a lot of these behaviors and things that we engage in. Because of wounding, because of trauma, we sort of build these walls and we kind of go like, well, I'm going to hold on to the unforgiveness and somehow that will protect me from being wounded in the future. When in reality, there's a quote that I love in the forgiveness lesson. It says, bitterness is poisoning yourself and hoping the other person dies. And really, bitterness is what tends to develop whenever we have unforgiveness, is that we just sort of carry it and stoke that in our hearts and minds. And it ends up poisoning us, ends up hurting us. And so forgiveness on the inverse, forgiveness actually benefits us. That we sometimes are like, oh, I want to protect myself. That's why I'm holding on to bitterness or unforgiveness. But actually what will benefit us is to release that, to release the bitterness, the unforgiveness that we carry, and allow God's forgiveness to permeate that, right? And so that we worked through that with both groups, the Tuesday and Thursday group, and talking about forgiveness. And as they were working through the lesson, the participants were encouraged to, because they worked through it during the week, were encouraged to say, is there someone in your life right now that you need to forgive? That forgiveness is an ongoing rhythm that we need to engage in. We live in a fallen world. We're broken people, so we say things that are not kind. We do things that are hurtful. People do things to us that are hurtful, and that there's a necessity for us to engage with forgiveness on a regular basis because it addresses the condition of our heart. It addresses the things that we want to hold on to rather than to release. One of the definitions of forgiveness is to send away, like to send away bitterness, to send away hostility, like that we send it away from us because we don't want to carry that with us. And so participants were encouraged again to engage with, is there a place of forgiveness that I need to practice, this week, today? Is there something that I need to engage with there? And probably a person associated with that. Sometimes it can even be ourselves. Sometimes we can, in the place of shame, we can sort of beat up on ourselves, and so that, or maybe the person we need to forgive is us, right? And so they were encouraged to engage with that, and in the process to engage with that with all the different questions in the process and all of that. And then we came on the night of group, and they had an opportunity to sort of tangibly, practically interact with that. And so they were invited to, at the end of the lesson, to come forward and to choose a piece of ribbon, to cut a piece of ribbon that represents kind of how much they feel ready to forgive the person that they've been focusing on during that week. And for some, it's a really small piece because it's like, I'm just really struggling with this. But forgiveness, to choose the decision to forgive, is not an emotional one. It's a logical decision to say, I'm putting a line in the sand and saying, I am forgiving this person. I don't maybe feel like doing that, but I know that it is what I need to do. And so I am choosing to do that. But I'm not sure that I'm completely ready to forgive them, like thoroughly or whatever, or that I don't feel this sort of big sense of that. And so maybe have a little piece of ribbon. But others, it's like, no, I feel really ready to forgive. And so I'm going to do a large piece of ribbon because that really represents that I just feel ready to just lean into this forgiveness place because I want the freedom. I don't want to be weighed down by the unforgiveness, by the bitterness. And so they're invited to do that and then to nail it to the cross. And certainly the cross is our reminder of Christ's death for us, that he forgave us of our sin so that we could be reconciled in relationship with God. And just as in the same way, when we forgive people, that gives the opportunity for us to be reconciled in relationship with each other. And so they have the opportunity to come and nail it to the cross, and then also to take a symbol of Christ's death and resurrection in communion, and that exchange, that we don't have to bear the penalty of sin and death. We don't have to bear the penalty of our wrongs, that God forgives us. And so that we get to remember that we get to have a relationship with God because of Christ's death. And so that also empowers us to be able to say, you know what, I have been forgiven much, and so I am going to forgive someone else, right? That because I've been forgiven much, I hopefully am open to saying, I want to forgive. And the cool thing about this too, which you probably can't see it from in this situation, but there are a lot of old holes on this cross as well, because there have been years of participants that have engaged in this same process, the same journey of saying, you know what, I want to practice forgiveness because I don't want to be bound up by that any longer. And so I'm going to choose to send away the bitterness, send away the hostility. Right? So I'd encourage you, even as you're hearing this and thinking about this, maybe there's a place of forgiveness or unforgiveness that also God's inviting you to address and to deal with. And so I would encourage you to contemplate that, maybe spend some time journaling or talking to a friend about it, or really prayer for sure. And certainly if you'd like to reach out to us and share that with us, we'd love to hear that from you. If you want to put it in the chat, that's fine too, but you're welcome to contact us, to email us. There'll be a link for that of how you can do that. But I would just encourage you to engage with forgiveness, kind of ask God, is there someone that I need to forgive? Yeah. Is there something I need to address in that? Because it's an ongoing thing that is necessary for us to do. So, yeah. Yeah. Now I think we're going to transition again. We're going to head out to our conference room. But in the process, we're going to do another giveaway. This is our final one. So if you didn't get a chance to enter one of the other ones, this is your moment. And so I'm going to tell you kind of what you need to do to enter it. And then I'll talk about what you're going to receive on this giveaway. So to enter this giveaway, you just need, in the chat, you need to enter in what's something that sort of stood out to you from what you've heard so far. We've got a couple more things we're going to talk about, but certainly, from what you've heard so far, what is it that's standing out to you, or what's catching your attention? Or what's a question that you have? Just kind of anything that you sort of are interacting with over the course of this evening. Like, what is that? Just drop that in the chat. Okay, and that's how you'll be entered to win the giveaway. And so the giveaway this time is 2 more books. One is called Stories for Women. This is women who have walked through either their own addiction or maybe they have betrayal trauma from a spouse who is navigating an addiction. And so just stories of encouragement of how God has met them and worked with them and through that. So that's the one book. And then also another copy of Emotional Dependency that, again, this is about how do we keep our friendships healthy? How do we have healthy relationship with other people? And so it's a great resource as well for navigating relationships in healthy ways. And so these 2 books are going to be the giveaway, the current giveaway. And so again, if you just drop something in the chat about what's standing out to you this evening, then you'll be entered in that giveaway. And so we're going to go ahead and do that giveaway. I'll just tell the host in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So you got to write quickly kind of what is it that's standing out to you. And so in 2 minutes, the hosts are going to choose someone to win these 2 books, and they'll drop that in the chat if we want it, and then we'll get in touch with you as well. And so this is our retreat and surrender room, and also some other things that we're going to throw in there. So every year we take a weekend away with our participants and leaders and alumni and some of our clients as well, just to step away and engage with God, go deeper with God in relationship, and then also in relationship with other people. And so again, relationship with God is foundational to overcoming these addictions and these difficulties in life. And so the retreat ends up being just an intentional place to hear from God, to get his perspective, and to navigate through. And so one big piece of the retreat is the surrender service, which is just essentially this opportunity to say, we encourage everyone to ask the question ahead of time, God, is there something that's in the way in our relationship? So us to God, is there something that's in the way in our relationship? And maybe it could be, a relationship or a mindset or a perspective, or it could be something that we're holding on to. It could be unforgiveness, could be one of the things, or bitterness, or it could be a relationship that we don't want to let go of, or whatever it may be. But we just praying and asking God, is there something that's in the way in our relationship? Because really the goal is to have a deeper connected relationship with God. And it's so easy for things to sort of get in the way, for different idols or different things that sort of gain our attention instead of being devoted to God. And so they're encouraged, the participants and leaders are encouraged to be praying that for a few weeks ahead of time, say, God, is there anything in the way in our relationship? And then we have a surrender service on Saturday night, which is an opportunity for people to come into, they're encouraged to bring an object to represent whatever it is they're surrendering. So they come and they share and say, this is a little bit of my story. This is what my object is and sort of how it relates with what I'm surrendering. And then in faith, say in front of everyone that they are wanting to surrender, that they're choosing to surrender that thing that's in the way in their relationship with God. And so then people come and pray over them and pray that God will fill that space with more of himself and with more of how he intends for us to live, right? And so we wanted to share a little bit of a couple of surrender stories with you.
We're going to share some real surrender stories with you. This surrender story is by a guy, and he surrendered a blanket. And this is what he had to say. I have struggled with pornography addiction for a number of years. There have been huge amounts of shame that came along with my struggles and failures. My pattern has been to cover up, mask that shame by engaging what looks like good behavior on the surface. I have worked hard to be a good student, a good employee, a good friend, etc., to try and disprove the shame that I feel inside. This blanket has represented the covering up, the ways that I try to protect myself from being seen in the shame. Surrendering it is a symbol of shifting to God, being the one who covers my shame, removes my shame, rather than my feeble attempts to do so. So what he did is he said all this, he took this blanket, he laid it across, and then he's invited to kneel. And then it's wonderful. Anybody who's there can come up, lay hands on them, and then pray to God, asking God to remove this, to seal his surrender, and to allow him to walk in freedom from the shame that he's feeling.
Yeah. So here's another one as well. Maybe you can read this one as well. This is another guy and sort of his story, what he surrendered.
So this man surrendered a Ken doll, a sporty Ken doll. So in my struggle with same-sex attraction, I needed to interact with various realities, with the fact that God made me a man. In that journey, comparison has been a struggle. Specifically, that has looked like comparing myself to those I see as ideal men. A Ken doll seems to reflect that picture of an ideal man. My surrender was about acknowledging that God intentionally created me with gifts and abilities that may look different from other men, but that does not make me less of a man. I need to engage with his design for me rather than comparing myself to some image that I see as perfection. Mm-hmm. So he so bravely, I actually remember I was there for this one. I actually remember when this person laid that Ken doll down and just how we all reacted to it and how proud we were for him to be so honest and to surrender this. And then the group of people that came up to pray for him was quite powerful. It's one of my personal favorite surrender memories.
Mm. And this is a woman who surrendered kind of a heart, essentially. So what's her story?
In this story, she says, during free time at retreat, prior to the surrender service, I fashioned a heart out of wadded up magazine pages, and I covered it with red paint. I wrapped a small piece of rope around the heart and drew it tight, squeezing the heart. I surrendered this item as a representation of the longing that I was struggling with, longing for more, longing for intimacy, longing for a husband. Through the process of journaling and creating this piece, God helped me gain a deep appreciation for the soft heart he had created me with. I share about the pain and the struggle that I was experiencing. By sharing this out loud and through the presence of a spirit within me, the shame and the longing dissipated. I became sincerely grateful for the ability to feel deeply, both my own emotions and alongside others with compassion and empathy. The Lord helped me become grateful and cognizant that the compassionate heart that he gave me is to be used for his glory and for the good of others. Aww.
Very cool.
Yes.
So there's also some pictures you can kind of see up here from different retreats of the past. And so just so kind of different opportunities to engage with God and interact with each other. We also have this canvas that's here on the table. And when we've done this event in person, we've encouraged people as they're sort of encountering surrender and hearing different stories and so on, to really reflect on, are there places of surrender that I've practiced in the past? Are there places where I have, realized, hey, there's something in the way in my relationship with God, and so I'm going to let go of it, whether it was a formal surrender service or just something that we engaged in. Because again, like forgiveness, this is a rhythm of our lives that we need to engage in. And so I encouraged people who came to that event to write out some place of surrender maybe that they had practiced in the past. And my encouragement to you also is to contemplate, are there places of surrender in the past maybe that you engaged in, or even are there places of surrender that God is inviting you into now? The places that things that are getting in the way in your relationship with him, where he's inviting you into more and saying, I really have a greater desire for you than that thing that you're holding on to. And so I encourage you to contemplate that, to reflect on that. And again, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us if that's something you'd like to talk about more, or if there's some piece there that's stirring something for you. You can always comment in the chat, but you can also email us privately if you would like. We'd love to hear from you and to hear about your journey with God around surrender. And there's some other things that happen in this room also.
Yes, this room is also our classroom for our Ramus internship program. This is our 20th year of ministry, and early on we realized we had a need to train leaders up for our ministry, to equip them to help people with sexual struggles. In the process of doing that, and through the many years of being having the internship program, we've changed it and developed it a little bit, and now it's designed to help you minister in any ministry that you have. So the internship is really for people that God is calling into ministry. I have been through the internship program and loved it dearly. It begins with a period of personal growth where we found out what we're talented at, what our spiritual gifts were, what our aptitudes were. Also a little bit of our weaknesses so that we could balance that and watch out for pitfalls in ministry with that. A lot of leadership training, a lot of training in counseling, how to come alongside people, how to be kind, how to ask good questions. You also get to be a part of Tuesday night programs where you're a leader. You learn how to set it up, how to tear it down. You get to learn things like fundraising, and we have a lot of guest speakers that come in and will describe other ministries that they're into so that you can decide, what ministry does God want me to be in. One of the best things about it is about halfway through, it's customizable. So you can, if you have an area where God is leading and that you want more information and training on, we can design that for you. My group of interns, we were really interested in ministering to people that had same-sex attractions. So we spent the last part of our internship learning about how to come alongside people, the shame that they're feeling, how to be gentle with them, how to develop good friendships with them and be trustworthy, be safe. We also go through book studies, all kinds of wonderful things.
Yeah, for sure.
And we also have mentorship inside that too. And in that, I was able to go through a wonderful book story about how to be a prayer warrior. We talked about prayer before, which really gave me a bunch of tools for me personally to be really, really good in praying for people and going to battle for people.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the internship, really the goal is to help leaders be effective for the long haul.
Yes.
That we're not sort of having burnout or other sort of failures in different ways. And so it may be that they're serving in a ministry in some form, or it may also be just in any kind of leadership, in business and work, or whatever it may be, that the idea is to just build in leadership into people. And so our key verse for the internship is Luke 5:16. It says, Jesus often withdrew to lonely, out-of-the-way places to pray. That lonely, out-of-the-way place, that word is the eremos word, which is a Greek word that is translated to lonely, out-of-the-way place. Sometimes it's translated to wilderness, kind of this idea of an untouched space, that in that kind of untouched space that we there's quietness in a lot of ways, and so that we are able to engage with God because there's not distractions of other things. And so the Eremos program, internship program, is kind of an invitation to come away on some level, to come away from maybe the typical things that we're engaged in and just to engage with God. But then also another way it's translated is desert. that the word eremos is translated desert. And in that sense, it's about this place of saying that there's the limiting nature of the desert. It's just a desert, it's just sand, it's whatever. And so that in that sort of limited place, in that place of desolation in some sense, that we encounter the limitless God. God meets us in that place and shows us things that we wouldn't expect, and we encounter things that we didn't think we would before. And so really it's something that we care about is investing in future leaders, and really saying, hey, how can we build you up and prepare you for whatever it is that God has next for you? And so our interns have done a number of different things over the years. So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, so that happens here in this room as well. We're going to move out to the backyard now. And a couple more things that we're going to chat with you about, and then we're going to move towards a conclusion, right? And so first thing that we wanted to talk about is just that hopefully this has been a really valuable time for you to really hear as we talked about counseling and how we engage in that, and support programs, the prayer piece, and just sort of how that's a really significant undergirding of everything that we do. And we talked about the internship program, talked about engaging in surrender and forgiveness, and how the masks in small group and kind of addressing those and really growing in community and what that looks like, right? So these are all kind of the different pieces about experiencing Mid-Valley Fellowship. And so hopefully you've gotten a taste of all of that this evening. Maybe it's sort of whet your appetite for you'd like to know more, but certainly at least as a starting place. And so I want to talk you through a couple of things, and I want to direct your attention. They're going to drop a link to our response card in the chat. And so I would ask that all of you fill out the response card. We'd love to hear from you and like to know kind of what your experience was like. And so there's a place for you to put your information, but also to tell us about what your sort of reflections from the evening are. Certainly, if there were things that were stirring in you that maybe you didn't want to put in the public chat, you could put that in that message, and it will just come directly to us. And so that we'll regard that with confidentiality, as we do with everything that we do around here. And so would ask for you to do that, to go and click on that link and start filling that out. You'll also find opportunities to partner. And so there's different ways that you could partner or get engaged with Mid-Valley Fellowship. First of all, maybe the way that you need to get engaged is because you are struggling in one of these areas that we've mentioned. Maybe you are struggling with pornography or sexual addiction or unwanted same-sex desires. Or maybe you are a survivor of sexual abuse, or maybe you have a spouse or family member or friend who's dealing with one of these issues, and you're just trying to understand, how do I navigate this? How do I walk through the different difficulties with this? And so it could be that the next step for you is to engage with support. And so there also will be a link for that, to engage with support, to get started in your journey. So I encourage you to do that. Even tonight, you can go on the Get Started page. You can schedule an initial new client phone call. That's confidential, a very kind of short conversation about kind of your story, your situation, so that we can effectively support you. And so I would encourage you to engage with support to get started, if that is something that is true for you, right? But also, this ministry is funded largely by individuals and churches who believe in the ministry and really support what we do. And that's the foundation of how we are able to be here, right? The house has been a gift in that, and people supporting and giving towards that, and then even just the regular day-to-day ministry costs that happen with a ministry like this. So we have this wonderful program called Bridge 54, which is for our monthly supporters. And it's taken from Romans 5:4, which talks about how suffering develops perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope, right? And so that you can be, and so that the bridge aspect is that you can be the bridge between suffering and hope for those who are struggling with sexual and relational wholeness. And so by giving monthly, by saying, hey, I'm going to commit to contributing $25, $50, $100 a month towards this ministry, and saying, I really want to see people experience healing and transformation in their lives. And so I'm going to pour in, I'm going to sow a seed in that, and be generous and say, I want to give monthly to this, because it is an ongoing thing. I shared earlier that it's a 2 to 5 year process, right? So that means that someone is walking through those different things. And we do give away a lot of scholarships to support people in their journeys. And so your giving helps make that possible, makes it possible for us to walk alongside people. This is a person-to-person ministry, and so it always needs people, and to walk alongside other people. And so your giving, especially your regular giving, is a significant part of that. There's also an option on that same page where you can choose to do a one-time gift. Maybe for you, it doesn't make sense to do a monthly gift, but a one-time gift is something that you can do for whatever reason. There's all kinds of reasons why that can be. And so we value that too. You investing in the ministry in that way. You can designate also. Maybe you are someone who really values us having a space, a building that we are that where we are ministering to people. We have a mortgage at the moment, and so certainly if somebody would like to, I think we owe about $150,000 on it, and so maybe that's you, and you're just like, hey, I've got this money sitting here, I'm not sure what to do, and I really would like to invest it in the kingdom. That would be a huge gift to us to take care of that mortgage, to pay it off, is so that we could then take those funds and really focus them towards ministry. Towards day-to-day ministry. Maybe it's just that that's a passion for you and that you really see the significance of the tangible. So maybe the gift is more like a $50,000 gift or something towards the mortgage or towards something with the house. And so we would welcome that. And there's a place you can designate that on that same response card as well. And so there's places to do that. You can also do a monthly gift towards the building or towards the general use. So like this is where needed most, right? Again, we really value the monthly sort of consistent piece, but we also see how God has moved in significant ways in those large gifts. We're blessed with a large gift a couple of years ago to upgrade our plumbing in the house. That was a huge cost, but also a huge blessing. And so there always are those sorts of things also that come along. And so those are ways that you can partner financially. We talked earlier also about prayer and about there's other volunteer opportunities as well to pray or to be involved in some way. We have people who help out with maintaining the grounds or who are involved in our office work. It can also be people who are involved in events and any number of things. And really, because of how we function as a ministry, we really want to understand when someone says, hey, I want to support you and that I want to says I want to walk alongside people who are struggling with sexual and relational wholeness. That thrown off because my phone is on silent, right? There's only one phone number that would ring, and I thought about it earlier. I'm like, that phone's gonna ring during the live stream.
You felt it, like God.
Like I just had this sense that it's gonna happen, and it did.
It's a live stream,
which it's a live stream, so things happen.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry, I got thrown off by that. What was I talking about?
We were talking about partnership. We were talking about prayer,
volunteering. That really part of thank you. Part of how we see, because we do value the uniqueness of each person, is that we really we want to find something that will fit with God's design of you, and how the passion that God's put in you, the things that God's put in you. That's what we really want to. We want to align with that, right? In how we walk alongside, or how we also work with you, and how you support and partner with us. And so we want you giving, your generosity, we want your volunteering, all those things to be good for you and your spiritual growth, right? Paul talks about, I believe it's in Philippians, he talks about that he wants the Philippians to sort of be blessed by giving, that he says, I really want it to be credited to your account. I want it to be for your good that you are giving to support the ministry that I'm engaged in. And that is our heart here too, is that we want it to be good for you. And so whatever it is that God's prompting in you this evening or inviting you into, that's what I would challenge you to do, right? And so there's opportunities to engage with support if that's for you, or maybe it's to volunteer or to pray. We also have people who serve on our board of directors and in other positions and things, and all of that is really valuable part of the picture. And giving is also a significant piece. And so we'd really value you investing in some way and really asking, God, is there a next step for me in this? Is there, maybe I'm already giving monthly, maybe it's to increase a little bit on that, or maybe it's that I've given a gift like a year ago, and maybe it's time to give another gift in that sense, or maybe it's that I volunteer in some way, and maybe there's something else that I can volunteer in, or I can choose to offer financial support. But whatever it is really just asking, God, is there a next step for me in this? Is my challenge this evening, is to do that. And again, we really would love to hear your reflections and your comments about the evening. We have done some virtual events, but it's been a very long time since we've done a virtual event. And so we'd really love to hear your feedback on that. And even if you're like, hey, I really love this and I would love for you to do more of these, then let us know that. That's helpful. So if you'll just fill out that response card, the link should be in the chat, and the host will drop it again in there in case it's kind of moved on because of other comments, but they'll drop that in there. And so please fill out that for us and let us know kind of what your experience is like has been like this evening.
Yeah, and lastly, we just want to tell you that if you'd like to come and visit us, our doors are open for that. We schedule tours of the house. You can come and see a little bit more in depth and maybe ask some more questions about how we use our spaces. We also do summer programs, and we're very excited this year to have an open share group. We're going to start that on June 18th. This is going to be every Thursday night, I think for 6 or 7 weeks. We're going to do this. We'll go from 7 to 8:30, and this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to come and see what it's like to be in a share group where we're sitting in a circle. We have a topic. We'll answer 1 or 2 questions in a confidential manner, and you can get used to how it feels to feel safe and to answer questions from the heart and to get feedback and see how other people are thinking about things. I'm very excited about this. We're going to open this to the community. If you're one of our clients, you can come. If you've never been in a group before, I would encourage you to come and check it out. And again, all this information is going to be on our website too, that you can see that. And then what kind of people?
Right. Yeah. So like, can pastors who are maybe just want to understand the ministry a little bit more and kind of have questions, can they come to the open group?
Yes, it'd be great for pastors to see what we do here.
What about somebody who says, hey, I've got a friend who's dealing with sexual addiction. I want to walk alongside them and kind of understand how to do that. Would that be somebody who could come to an open group?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. What about somebody who has been in one of our programs and they're kind of like, I just really want a place to connect and interact about, kind of deep and meaningful things. Is that somebody who could come to the group?
Yes, we would welcome them.
What about somebody who is an alumni who came like 5 years ago and sort of hasn't been around, but, is kind of feeling that sense they want to connect? Would that be somebody who could come to an open group?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see, who else? Somebody who just really wants to understand the ministry, or kind of like, who are those crazy people at Mid-Valley Fellowship? Would this be an opportunity that they could come check it out?
It would be a great opportunity.
So the name of it tells you everything. It's an open group, which means that you can come and drop in, and you can engage with people and sort of just learn more about the ministry, or even kind of walk through your own things. And so just invite you to come. We'd love for you to be a part of that. It'll be in each, you can drop into one, you can come every week, whatever you want to do. Each one will kind of stand on its own. It'll be a great experience. So I'm looking forward to those.
Me too.
And just the opportunity to connect with people and talk through things. So I think that's almost it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else, actually.
There isn't anything else. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Other than that, we really appreciate you dropping in on a Friday evening and hanging out with us and learning more about Mid-Valley Fellowship. And again, we would love to stay connected with you. So if you fill out that response card, that'll be a great way for us to know that to connect with you. So we would love to do that. So fill that out for us. And the host will also be on for another about 15 minutes or so. Just kind of, if you have other questions or things or other resources that we can send your way, just drop that in the chat and they'd be happy to respond to you and to offer that. But yeah, just thank you so much for joining us. We love that we get to drop in, and the sun is setting, which kind of is fitting. That it's kind of, about time for us to sunset this conversation. And then we can enjoy the colors that I'm sure are going to be there in just a short little while. So anyway, thanks again for dropping in, and thanks, Terry, for hanging out and for sharing with us as well.
Yeah, thank you, Duan.
Yeah.
My pleasure as always.
All right, we will see you another time.
All right, bye.